Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. What's the understanding of autism in Afghanistan and the availability of services in Canada? If you're curious about autism support and awareness around the world, you'll want to listen to this episode with Hilai Nasib. Originally from Afghanistan and currently living in Canada, Hilai Nasib is the mother of a 10-year-old son with autism. She advocates about autism on social media, hoping to destigmatize autism in Afghan communities. This episode is part one of our conversation, and we discuss Hilai's process of getting her son's diagnosis, early intervention and availability of services in Canada, what Hilai envisions for her son's future, how cultural beliefs about mental health impact autism awareness, what ultimately encouraged Hilai to open up about her son's autism, and her journey as an autism advocate. In this episode, discover what's possible when you break the silence. And now I present you Hilai Nasib.
Hi, Rachel. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here and for the opportunity to be a guest on your podcast. My name is Hilai Nasib, and I'm also known as Frishta on social media. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and health studies, and I also have a TESOL certificate, which is teaching English as a second language. I am currently completing my autism and behavioral sciences program in hopes of becoming an ABA therapist in the nearest future. I am also an autism advocate and the founder of Afghan Autism Parenting Journey. I am married and I have two beautiful children. I have a son who's 11 years old with autism, and I have a neurotypical 9-year-old daughter who is really into soccer, gymnastics, and karate.
Okay, amazing. How about your son? What are some of his strengths and interests?
Armin is extremely artistic and creative. He loves coloring. He makes cartoon characters and animals out of clay. Also, he has a very exceptional memory. He could remember things from when he was 2 years old or 3 years old, events and situations. He's also very independent, from brushing his teeth to putting on his clothes to preparing his clothes for next school day. He almost does everything for himself. We are currently teaching him to take independent showers, and he's very independent, which I'm very grateful for. And he is also extremely kind and passionate, and he has a very kind heart, I would say.
Oh, that's wonderful. What was it like for you to receive his diagnosis? How old was he at that time?
Rachel, he was, I believe, 16 or 17 months. When I started noticing certain signs in him, like lack of eye contact, I would call him and he wouldn't respond to his name. So I got curious. I started sharing my concerns with my family first, and I was told that I'm being extra, that he's too little, that I am expecting way too much from a little child. And I didn't listen to any of that. I went with my gut feelings. I had conversations with many specialists and other moms. I went to the pediatrician, his specialist, and we began the process. We did a lot of testing and lots of questionnaires that needed to be filled out. I put him into daycare right away. And I believe he was 2 years old and 2 months when we received the official diagnosis. And obviously it was devastating because all this while I knew that there was something going on with him. So the diagnosis was devastating, yes, but it was also a kind of relief in the sense that it reassured me that whatever I was feeling and whatever I was thinking all this while was not incorrect, in the sense that he was different and that there was something going on.
Mhm. How have you since then processed accepting his autism? Because now, do you still see it as devastating?
Absolutely not. I was in a completely different state of mind when I received that diagnosis, due to how I was brought up, due to how disability is viewed in my culture, due to how there is no sense of neurodiversity. It's almost non-existent within our culture. So at that time and point, yes, it was devastating because we were fearful. We didn't know what to do with it. We didn't know what to tell our families or whether we should tell them or not. But after learning about his diagnosis, after educating myself, learning about autism, it has helped me in seeing my son for who he truly is. And it has helped me learn that there is nothing lacking with him. It's just a different way of being. It's just that his brain is wired differently. So learning about autism, educating myself, it has really helped me tremendously. And it has moved me from being fearful towards accepting who he is, being more compassionate, and yeah, becoming more aware of neurodiversity in general.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing that you've had this kind of transformation in how you view autism yourself. Is he receiving any services now, or did he as a young child?
I was teaching part time when I started noticing these early signs of autism in him, although at that time I didn't know it was autism. So I quit my job. That's the first thing I did. I became a stay at home mom. He was our only child at then. So the first thing I did was, because he didn't have anyone around his age at home and no cousins, no other children, I put him into daycare at my sister's suggestion. And I also started taking him to this place, Early Years Center, where I met other parents and other children around his age, where he could be with other children around his age. So I think that was the first help that we got him. And we also started paying out of pocket for speech therapy. We started doing ABA therapy at home. Whatever amount of hours we could afford, we started doing it right out of pocket because he didn't have an official diagnosis. And he's had speech therapy and ABA therapy since then, ongoing. There has been interruption here and there, but it's been ongoing.
Okay, got it. And you're based in Canada, right? So are there
Yes.
services provided, like the government pays for them?
The government does pay for them. The child has to have an official diagnosis. And once the diagnosis comes in, the parents are put on a waiting list to receive the funding, which can take from 1 to 5 years.
Mm.
Now, luckily, Armin's autism funding came quite quickly for us. I think it took about a year or so, but it's called Ontario Autism Funding Program, in short OAP. So we do receive OAP funding for him, which I use for his ABA and SLP therapies.
Okay. Wow, so some kids have to wait up to 5
Oh,
years, and those
yes.
are very crucial years
Yes.
when they could really be benefiting from earlier intervention.
Absolutely. For it takes a while for the diagnosis itself to come because of all these tests and assessments that need to be done. And by the time they receive the funding, some of these kids are already in their age 7 or age 8, which is a little too late, I would say. It's still not late to get help, but a little too late, I would say.
Mhm.
Because the first 5 years, like you said, is extremely crucial. It's early intervention. It's highly important to intervene in those first 5 years of life.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad that it worked out for Armin and that he's getting the support that he needs.
I am as well.
Yeah. So what do you envision for his future?
You see, before his diagnosis, I had this whole set of things already made up in my mind for his future, that he's going to grow up and be a doctor or an engineer or this or that. But now I go based on his needs, his strengths and abilities, and that's what I focus on. I do not look at his future way in advance now. I take it day by day, one day at a time. And my envision of his future is whatever he's capable of doing in life. Whether that is becoming an artist, whether that is working in the zoo because he's extremely passionate about animals, whether that is becoming a zoologist, whatever he is comfortable with and whatever he is capable of doing in the future. I would like to say, Rachel, that as you know, autism is a spectrum and Armin is a very high functioning and low supports need child. So I am certain that he will eventually end up having a job and he will hopefully be able to independently be out there in the community and function very well. I have confidence in him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the right thing, to stay positive and not set limitations and build on his strengths, which you're already doing.
Yes, absolutely. There will be challenges down the road, but that's what here I am as a mom, and that's what his daddy is there for. We will be here right beside him.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, Rachel here. Are you enjoying this episode? Want to hear more valuable content from others you can relate with? Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you can stay up to date on future episodes. And now back to the conversation. Okay, Hilai, so let's talk about your advocacy work. What inspired you to begin speaking publicly about autism on social media?
So, Rachel, as I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning or not, I forgot, but I am Afghan and I come from a culture where there's a huge lack of understanding, education, and awareness around autism. Autism in general, as you know, has been around for decades now. But people in Afghanistan and Afghans all around the world are just slowly starting to understand what autism is. And not just autism, neurodiversity in general. Like I said, it's almost non-existent. We don't even have an equivalent word for neurodiversity in our language. And the way mental health, which is the next thing closest to neurodiversity, is viewed in Afghanistan is that it's all put into under the same umbrella or the same label, which is dewana, which in English translates to crazy. So any type of mental condition, whether it's OCD, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, the person who has it would be labeled as dewana, which means crazy. Oh, she's crazy. Oh, he is crazy. So when we first learned about Armin's autism condition, we decided to stay silent out of fear, out of the stigma that's attached to neurodiversity, to mental health in our culture. We remained silent for, I think, 5 to 6 to 7 years, for the longest time. I slowly started telling my parents, my sisters, who I'm very close with, but we kept it hidden from other families and far relatives. There was this event that I went to, and there was a relative that was really struggling with their child, and I could notice the early signs and red flags of autism in their child. They were struggling with the child and with the people around them. And I want to clarify one thing, that Armin was the first child in our family and in our circle of friends and families that was diagnosed with autism. After Armin came a few other little ones in the family that then as they grew up, I started noticing these red flags and signs, but then the parents were not talking about it. It either seemed that they lacked education or awareness about autism, or it was just that they knew about it and they were just doing the same thing as I was, hiding. So that night, after that particular event, when I came home, I turned to my husband and I said, you know what? I think enough is enough. I feel guilty for these children. I feel like I have acquired all this knowledge. I have been working with Armin. I have been sitting in his sessions, ABA sessions, SLP session. I have accumulated this wealth of knowledge about autism. I have this background in psychology and health studies. And if I do not step up and help these families, who's going to help them? If we continue staying silent about this, if we continue fearing, we are not helping our child in the first place, and we are not helping someone else. So what's the point of having this experience in life if we are not going to make use of it to serve other people in a way? And Rachel, it's if you directly meet with a Afghan parent and tell them that you have these concerns about their child, most likely it's going to be met with a very negative reaction in a way that, oh, you're pointing out that my child is, like I said, Dewana. I'm using air quotes. So I avoided doing that. And I thought the best thing to do was to go online, share about Armin's experience, share about our journey, and hopefully someone will say, you know what? I'm not alone. I haven't been alone. There is this family who's been through the same thing as me and as our family. So with a lot of fear, with a lot of uncertainty, I began this Instagram account, which is called fresh.soul. And I started sharing about Armin's diagnosis. And that's when I was completely surprised with the amount of private messages I received within the first couple of weeks from close family members, from far family members and relatives in US, in Australia, in other parts of the world, saying, oh my gosh, Hilai, thank you for this. I had no one to turn to. I knew there was something going on with my child. I knew, but I have nobody to discuss this with. I have the same fear. I have the same thoughts that you have had about Armin. I'm so glad that you are here and you're talking about this. And when I started that online advocacy, Rachel, there are millions and millions of advocacy accounts, autism advocacy accounts online on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, by Caucasian parents, by African American parents, by Asian parents. And I could only find less than 5 parents at the time, Afghan parents, and only Afghan moms who were, there is a couple who husband and wife are actively advocating, but mostly Afghan moms, less than 5 of them who are talking about autism online. And even their accounts are not exclusively dedicated to autism. They have other contents that they share. But again, it's only 1 to 3 other accounts that I found online who were openly, actively talking about their child's experience. That says something about autism in Afghanistan. That says a lot about awareness about autism in Afghanistan, in Afghan communities, not just in Afghanistan, in Afghan communities and all over the world. That's why I felt like, you know what? This was much needed. Whatever I did was much needed. And soon after opening this IG account, like the Instagram account, I felt the need to create a safe space for Afghan parents who are navigating autism to share their stories with others so that more and more people could come out and begin sharing about their journey, or more and more Afghan families could feel less alone. I created Afghan Autism Parenting Journey, which is a website, and I have been sharing at least one article from other parents who share their stories, their autism journey, what they have learned about autism, how they want our people to start openly advocating and openly discuss about autism. So that's a space that I have created for my people so far.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. That's really incredible, the work that you're doing. And I'm sure it took a lot of courage to speak up. You mentioned the fear and anxiety when you were deciding that you wanted to go public with this. So kudos to you for stepping up, and you're making a difference in the community. It's really great. Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and come back next Thursday for part 2 of my conversation with Hilai Nasib, where she talks about some of the unique challenges faced by Afghan families with autistic children. Thanks for listening. Take care.